By the time you got here, you saw hundreds of messages. And if that weren't enough, we continue to seek out more messages. We look to media and we look to entertainment. And what do we find there? What do we receive from this entertainment? We receive a lot of masks. We see characters wearing masks to get other characters to behave certain ways. And it doesn't matter whether it's theater or opera, which is old, but people have not changed in 300 years, or the newest blockbuster movie. This happens time and time again because our form of entertainment is a reflection of our own lives. So we all wear masks. Everyone that we encounter is wearing masks. So if I think about me, I come to work and I wear a mask at work. This is Ginamarie, your coworker. When I go home, I'm mom. And those worlds don't often intersect. The people at work see who I am at work. They don't see who I am at home, and vice versa. I'm not saying that we aren't being true to ourselves. What I'm saying is that we adapt to our surroundings and we interact with them appropriately. But where this gets really kind of complex is when you think about it, you have multiple masks that you wear throughout your day. And so does every single person that you interact with. And it doesn't matter if it's the person checking you out at the store or if it's the person waiting on you at your table. You see 6 minutes of this person's life. There are 525,943 other minutes in their year. And you just saw 6 minutes of them. And so maybe you have a negative interaction with this person. And the first thing that happens, because you didn't do anything wrong, you were just trying to check out or whatever it was, first thing you think is, what's wrong with that person? That was uncomfortable. My blood's boiling. I'm unhappy about it. I'm going to carry that around for another couple of hours. But why? Why did that negative interaction happen? Because they have more than 500 other thousand minutes they're living a year, and you don't know what happened during those minutes. So I want to just dig into this a little bit, and I'll share my own story. When I was 9 years old, my dad bought me a bow and arrow set for $20 from like a store that caught on fire, and it was on sale and whatever. And I loved it. I loved archery. I had a lot of fun with it. And so my dad got me a coach, and it just so happened to be the same man that took Denise Parker, a local Utahn who won the bronze medal at the Olympics when she was just 14 years old. And I remember sitting down at his kitchen table, and his wife, Judy, she was bringing me some cookies, and he's sitting there, like, not waiting for her, talking to me. I just wanted the cookie. And he said to me, Ginamarie, do you want to go to the Olympics? Like, seriously, do you want to go to the Olympics? And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So from that point forward, my life gradually started to change. As I enhanced my skill in this sport and my skill grew, my social life shrank. I ended up turning into this archery machine. I'd wake up at a certain time because I had practice. The food that I ate was so that I could be a better athlete. What I wore, everything. I read archery magazines. I read archery theory to pass the time. It was just what I breathed every day. And I didn't get my driver's license until I graduated high school. I didn't go to senior prom. I spent my Sweet 16 in the Czech Republic. I didn't date. I learned how to make out in college. And, you know, it was a different experience. And it's one that I wouldn't ever trade. So, yeah, Sweet 16 in Prague, that was World Championships. I qualified for Olympic trials after that. I didn't make the team, but the same year I did make the U.S. archery team, which is the equivalent of the U.S. ski team, which I think is probably a more familiar concept in Utah. And then the following year I made collegiate All-American. There were some hiccups, kind of balancing this obsessive passion and trying to go to school and actually be a student. And archery is a lifelong sport, so at a certain point I decided to stop shooting. And I didn't feel a significant amount of loss because it's a sport that you can re-enter at any time. And I became like a normal student. That's when I learned how to make out. And so I had this identity that I completely shifted. And honestly, I was learning how to like re-enter the real world. And so shortly after college, which was a very normal experience, some weird symptoms started popping up out of nowhere. And they went undiagnosed or misdiagnosed for a while and untreated until one time they got really, really bad. So I'm 24 years old at this point, just coming off of this amazing career in archery and finishing school and getting a real job. And symptoms started on Sunday. And it was like a numbness or a tingling. By the next day, it felt kind of like licking a 9-volt battery anytime anything touched me. It's a bizarre concept to try to explain. But that's probably the closest. Go home and lick a 9-volt battery. Or don't. So symptoms started on Sunday. By Wednesday, I couldn't dress myself because it was too painful to touch anything. By Thursday, I couldn't bathe myself. So my mother did that, and she wrapped me up in a towel like she did 20 years earlier. And she wept and I wept, and she couldn't hold me and she couldn't comfort me because it hurt too much. So this is all in the span of less than a week. This is how bad it got, so fast. By Friday, I was in to see a neurologist, and she was explaining to me that I could have some rare virus that's attacking my spinal cord. I could be stroking out from birth control, or more likely, I could have MS, multiple sclerosis. So let's talk about multiple sclerosis, because all I did was cry when she told me that. I didn't really know what it was. So this is kind of a drawing of what a nerve looks like, a neuron. And in here, this yellow part, those are axons. And those axons carry messages. And they're covered in myelin sheathing. And this sheathing is meant to make it so that we can be the big, complex creatures that we are without our signals getting crossed. And we can do all of these complex, fine movements and thoughts. And what happens to me now is my immune system sees that sheathing that keeps all of the messages going where they're supposed to from my brain to my body, and it attacks it and destroys it. So those messages, those electrical signals, are no longer contained inside that sheathing. They kind of jump out and they go to the next nerve, and they cause a lot of problems. So in the next slide, this is a brain scan, and this little white dot here, that's really all they can see on an MRI. This is not my brain. This is a brain from Wikipedia. But my brain looks like a Christmas tree because there's damage all over it from my own immune system. And because it attacks the nerves in your brain, which if you think about everything in your body is controlled by your nerves, everyone's experience with multiple sclerosis is different. And every relapse is different from the last. I've had sensory problems. I've had motor control problems. Most recently this summer, I've been dealing with not being able to swallow very well. I actually just finished infusions to try to fix that last week. And that's kind of, they're not fun. It's 3 days of sitting at home with a steroid IV, and it kind of makes you feel like crap. But the steroid is meant to reduce this inflammation, to stop this activity, to stop my immune system from attacking my own nerves. This was hard news to take because you would think at 24 years old that you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and where you want to go and who you want to be, and all of a sudden my prognosis for my future was kind of uncertain. They say, oh, we hope for the best. We can to get it under control, but there is no cure. There is no guarantee that you're going to stop it. And so you move forward. So I went through all of this on a Friday, and I don't know why, but I showed up to work the next week. Maybe because I was in denial. When you receive news like this, you go through an actual mourning process, the full grief process, denial, and anger and helplessness. You cycle through all of it. And I guess I was in the denial process, and I went to work. And at this point, my dominant hand and the entire right side of my body was pretty much useless. I worked at a manufacturer with production-based customers. I made sure $400 million worth of revenue happened every year. So I get this call from the warehouse manager one day, and he is mad at me. And what's taking you so long, Ginamarie? This isn't like you. I've been waiting on this all day. I have deadlines. I have things that need to go out. We're going to shut down this production company. And of course, you know, he doesn't mean anything bad by it. He has the same stresses in his job that I have. But all he knows is the 6 minutes of the day that we're on the phone with each other. He doesn't know everything that I just went through that week, going through right then, that for some reason I was sitting at my desk trying to work and deal with. The biggest thing that I was dealing with at the time in my grief was the loss of the machine that I had built. That damage had already occurred in my body, that would no longer allow me to have the precise and fine movements that it takes to take this arrow with a diameter smaller than a pencil and put it in a target the size of one of those CDs on the wall, 270 feet away. This room is 80 feet, so add a few rooms. Nice movement. And that's what you need to compete. And all of a sudden, that option for going back to archery whenever I wanted, this passion that I had built all of my formative years around, it was gone. Or at least that's how it felt, that it was gone. The thing about multiple sclerosis and really any invisible disease is that it's affecting you more than just when you're sick. Almost every morning when I wake up, it feels like my bones are 70 years old. Like I'm the rusted tin man and I need to get oiled before I get going, and it hurts. I have a limited battery during the day. I really have to plan out my day. So maybe someone will see me going up an elevator to go up one flight of stairs and think, oh, why is she being so lazy? But the reality is I know that I told my daughter that I would take her to feed the ducks that afternoon. And if I spend my energy going up the stairs, I'm not going to have the energy to walk around the lake with her. There are good days, of course. but experimenting on how to deal with those good days so that I don't cause more problems for myself. So it's a whole lifestyle change. Stop me from living life, right? I still do the things that I need to do. I come to work, I put on my work mask, and I go to the grocery store and I put on my I'm checking out mask. How are you doing? Great. You didn't really listen to me when I asked you how you're doing, but you're checking out my food, so that's good. I'll pay you now. But this is what I had to go through to learn empathy. And the more that I share my story, the more it becomes clear to me that everyone has a story. Everyone has a struggle. Everyone has something invisible that we're dealing with. And every single time we interact with someone, we are seeing one sliver of that person's life. And we are getting feedback from all the rest of their life underneath that sliver. So I had to learn the hard way. This is a pretty difficult thing to go through. But that's just the thing about it, is that my story isn't special. It's universal. Everyone's dealing with this in one way or another. It doesn't have to be a disease. So I try to remember, now that I have all these problems and no one can see these problems and I look fine and I'm not keeping up with people, or I don't know. Maybe people pass judgment, maybe people don't. I have no idea. I just try to do my thing because I know what I need. And but I really try to be aware up here that I can't see people's struggles written on their forehead. So when that person is short with me in the checkout line, or maybe I did something to tick off the waiter, or really anyone, the person at the gas pump, someone that I walked by, someone that I looked at weird when I was thinking about something else, I don't know. Their life is just as complex as mine. Your life, the person sitting next to you, you all have places to be today. You all have people that you love. You all have problems that you're going through, whether they're at work or at home or whatever. We have all these crazy, crazy, complex, intricate things happen in our lives, and then we come together and we show each other a few minutes of our lives. So when we think about it that way, I have to say that empathy is something that it has to be practiced. You have to be vigilant about it. Because it is something that's needed, and it's needed for invisible reasons. So I have, of course, like any good speaker, the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of empathy. The action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another, or of either the past or present without having the feelings, thoughts, and experience fully communicated in an objectively explicit manner. Also, the capacity for this. Or, more my speed, the Kid Dictionary version. Of being aware of and sharing another person's feelings, experiences, and emotions, and the ability for this. So, my question for you, do we have the capacity for this kind of outward thinking? Can we stretch ourselves to not only worry about all of the complexities in our lives, but to be cognizant of the complexities in people's lives that we interact with?